Hi everyone, this is Maura Sweeney and welcome to episode 10 of the ABCs of Now. This is a special 26-part series where we are going through the alphabet, but rather than starting at A and ending at C, we are starting at C and working backwards to A, with each specific episode taking up a letter of the alphabet along with an assigned word beginning with that letter. Now, if this is your first time that you've happened upon me, here's what I want you to know. Our world is in a place right now where it's undergoing seismic changes. Everyone can feel it, and if you haven't yet felt it, you soon will. Many of the things that we all maybe rested our identity, our belief systems on, are all coming under shakings, change. And when that happens, we feel it within as much as we can see it, feel it, and witness it without in the outer world. But this podcast, and my podcast in particular, which is Maura Sweeney, Living Happy Inside Out, is designed not to upset people, but to do just the opposite. It's always designed so that you can live at peace and at a place of rest from the inside out. So rather than feeling like you're being tossed to and fro every time there's a news report that upsets you or a disclosure that causes you to really kind of get out of whack, this series helps you, in a sense, walk yourself backward and ultimately walking back to the place of peace, walking back to your soul, walking back to your heart. And if I could bring it even to a deeper level, I would say walk it back to your inner place of knowing. Your inner place of knowing. If you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, find me on any one of a number of platforms, starting with iTunes, Maura Sweeney, Living Happy Inside Out, and you will see each one of the podcasts in order through this series. So are you ready for episode 10? Here we are, taking up the letter Q, and the word that I have for Q is the word question. Question. Now, you might think, what does that mean? It's probably par for the course for almost everything I do. But the word question for Q seemed to embody a lot of what we all need to do right now, and we will be doing more and more as time moves forward. Let me first start with the definition of the word question. Then I'm just going to talk a little bit beyond that and show you where you could make some connections to this word at the end of this podcast. The definition for the word question, there are several. Here's the first. A question is an expression or inquiry that invites or calls for a reply, such as, "Oh, what does that sign say up there?" It's an interrogative sentence, phrase, or gesture. Now, those might be the kinds of things we're most familiar with. What does that sign say? What color outfit is that? Basic questions. But there are some other applications and definitions for questions that'll cause you to go a little bit deeper. Number 2 is this. A question is a subject or point open to controversy. Open to controversy. It also is known as an unsettled issue. Now, I want you to think about that word unsettled. When we have questions, they come up when something within us feels unsettled or unresolved. Something doesn't sit right. Okay, here's a third definition for the word question. It's a difficult matter or a problem. That's an interesting one, such as, well, it's a question of ethics. So think about that. A question can sometimes be a difficult matter or a problem. Number 4, question is a point or subject under discussion or being considered. Interesting. we're taking up the question of economics or recyclables, a point or subject under discussion or being considered. Here's another definition for question. It's a proposition brought up for consideration by an assembly. Interesting. So a group of people are going to be bringing up a particular topic and considering that topic. And secondly, it's the act of bringing such a proposal to a vote. So you can see in this case, it's people getting together to look at a particular matter and then vote on it. First, obviously, with considering the question at hand. Now, number 6, a definition for the word question is uncertainty. Think about that. We not only ask questions because we think we're going to get some basic information like what color is that, but we ask questions when we have a certain amount of uncertainty or doubt. Now, I want you to think about this as a question too. Are there any issues that maybe you doubt or you have some uncertainty rolling around somewhere? Have you brought these things up for consideration? Have you looked at them? Okay, and lastly, as a definition for question, we get the definition possibility, as in, oh, that is out of the question, meaning that is out of possibility. There are also a couple of expressions that are tied to the word question. One is to call into question. Now that's a very interesting topic in and of itself. Do you realize how many matters are never called into question? They're just allowed. They're just overlooked. But in this case, to call into question means to request, to debate upon, or cast doubt upon. It's actually bringing something into the light to say, we'd like to look at this, and we'd like to look at it a little more closely. Another expression is to question, as in to interrogate, like a witness or a suspect. If you've ever seen some of the old TV shows where they would say to potential people under investigation, where were you on the night of the 24th? So that's to question and interrogate. Another expression is to express doubt about or to dispute. Sometimes you might see young people looking at elders and maybe they're being taught something or told something and they turn around and question it or they dispute what they are being told. One thing that comes to mind is when young children years ago were told not to smoke by their parents who were smoking. And the kids would say to them, well, why are you telling me this when you are doing or engaging in that same behavior? So in that case, that's where you are expressing doubt about or disputing what you're being told. And lastly, when it comes to the word question, the word itself is traced back to a Latin root that is to seek or to ask. To seek or to ask. So as we're going through this series of the ABCs of now and literally undoing a lot of those things maybe that we took upon ourselves as beliefs or maybe decisions we made that we possibly need to undo, the word question in this episode becomes really quite important and clear when you think of the word question as to seek or to ask. I'm actually reminded when I hear the word seek of the words of Jesus, who said, "Seek and you will find." Now, how often in life do we really seek, or in this case, ask? And if we don't seek or ask, we may never find. Now, I want to get you started on this particular letter Q and the operative word question by asking you a few questions so that you may get on a path of training yourself or becoming aware of the opportunity to ask questions where maybe you never asked them before. And if I can say this, One of the reasons why this word question is so important in the ABCs of now is that we all are in a place where we're being prompted to grow. Oftentimes we don't grow because we don't even know we can grow. Maybe we're not encouraged to grow. But the very idea of asking questions, learning to ask, actually puts us on a course where we can ask yet more questions, where we can seek, and even learn that there may be things we never thought there were to find until we started asking questions. So here are a few that you can take along on your journey for today and for all the additional times that you decide to tap into this particular episode. Here's one. Have you ever been deceived? Have you ever been deceived? And if so, by whom? Next, did you figure out why that person deceived you? Or maybe even told you a lie? Now, how about this as another question? And they all have a reason for being here. Have you ever deceived someone else or told a lie? Have you ever done something even as small as omitting information when someone questioned you? And if so, why was that? Why was that? Have you ever been among others and heard someone tell a story or make a proclamation that you knew absolutely was not true? Did you question the story or statement at the time? And if you didn't, why not? Here's another one, and it may seem very basic, but it will get you maybe into a place where you can actually look backward and see how much you enjoy asking questions, seeking information, getting curious. When or how did you figure out that Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, or the Easter Bunny were not real? Did you figure it out on your own by asking questions, or did you wait until someone told you? Okay. Here's another one. Have you ever entered into a contract or an agreement and learned only after the fact that certain information or conditions were not made plain? And if so, who exactly was it that benefited in that arrangement? Here's another one. Have you ever found yourself in the midst of peers or experts, or even those who held a very fixed or dogmatic belief, and you wanted to ask a question, but thought otherwise? Why exactly didn't you ask? Have you ever walked into a room, a club, maybe a church or synagogue, maybe a special financial, academic, or medical organization, and listened to some information, and something inside just didn't seem like it sat right? Did you ask a question about it? Did you bring anything up for questioning? And if not, why not? Have you ever wondered personally about things and yet were afraid to seek the answers? Those are just a few of the questions that came to my mind as I was exploring the possibilities of the letter Q and the word question. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. During this time that we're going through, there will be many disclosures. Some of the disclosures will hit us as if they're socking us in the face, but other things we may have already surmised something was wrong, and we might have wondered in our past. But questions are drawn from us individually when sometimes we are curious and we maybe want to learn more. Sometimes questions come up when we realize that we're ignorant about a particular subject and we want more information. Sometimes we hear a particular perspective and we wish to seek out other perspectives on the same topic. These are all reasons why we do learn to question. Now, I offer this to you again because sometimes we may not want to question, and yet sometimes we'll hold on to things dearly and deeply and wholeheartedly because we're hoping that the things we used to believe in or the information we previously held was all there is to know. But things will be changing today, tomorrow, and in our future. The last thought I want to leave you with about the word cue and question is this. It was a quote that came from, of all people, Elvis Presley. And I thought that it really ties in very well with this ABCs of change, with the letter Q in the word question, and the fact that we are all on this journey, in a sense, undoing, unraveling, unwinding many of the things that we all engaged in that got us off track, that got us away from our peace, and we're moving ourselves backward, back to that 0 point, back to our inner peace, and back to the place where our soul can be at rest. I think it's a good way to finish today's episode, and it's this. Elvis said, truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away. Now, I might never say it ain't going away, but there is such truth in this very quote. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away. Right now, we are all moving and advancing toward the truth. Moreover, we're moving and advancing toward exposure, and the exposure is becoming more and more apparent because we're moving more and more into places of light. And as we do, we're all going to be gaining greater knowledge, greater awareness, greater consciousness. And in the end, when we finally go from our letter Z back to the beginning at letter A, we'll all know that it was a good thing. So I hope you give some great thought to the letter Q. More than that, I want you to save this episode. I want you to download it, and I want you to tap into all the other episodes of the ABCs of Now, because whether you know it now or not, you're going to say, wow, now I need it. Until the next time, this has been Maura with More for You.